start this off. My opinion, just by the things I've heard, seen, read, that kind of stuff, and everything going on, is I would pull your children out of school as soon as possible. And if that's tomorrow, great. If it's not tomorrow, then Monday. Just pull them out and then get a plan if you don't have a plan beforehand. And I'm saying that because of everything going on. I mean, with all the things going on now, with the face diapers, the suffocating of the children with the masks, and all the distancing that you have to do, the limited interaction that they have as a child, the limited interaction they have with the teachers, and actually learning and doing the things that they were used to do. Yes, granted, over the years it's gotten to be a lot less learning and education than it is more indoctrination. That's another story. But I would pull them out of school first chance you get. Just think about this. Why would you yourself have your children go to school and be taught or raised by strangers for 8 hours? We'll say 8 hours because of the school bus ride and that kind of stuff. So 8 hours, maybe a little more than 8 hours. So these are strangers that you don't know before they started school. You might know them now a little bit, but why would you have them raised 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for how many months? And those are the hours that you miss. Are you at work? Well, you may be, but you can figure things out for that. I'm not saying quit work, but I'm saying if you have to work full time during the day, you can school them in the evenings. That way, you have that time with them. They're learning from you. You guys might be learning together in certain subjects if you're teaching that way. And you can see what their interests are, where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. If you want them stronger somewhere else where they may be weak, you can focus on that. And you can teach them what you feel and what you've learned over the years, what you need for living, what you didn't learn in school. If you think about that, you sit down and actually think about it, you write it down, all the things you did not learn in school, and then all the stupid junk you learned in school that you don't remember and didn't have to know at all, like the cell of a plant. If you're not into biology, you're not into plants, you're not into forestry, you're not into anything like that, you don't care about that, why did you have to know all the parts of a cell of a plant then? Just as an example. I mean, there's many examples like that. If you're going to be a big chef, a huge chef somewhere, a well-renowned chef, or a chef that works at different bars, restaurants, that kind of stuff, that's your goal. That's what you want to do. Why do you have to know trigonometry, algebra, any of those sciences, that kind of stuff? Anything else that you were forced to learn that you didn't have to know because you didn't care about. That wasn't your interest, that wasn't your strength, that's not what you're going to do. Why did you have to learn everything? And some people might say, well, they sort of need to know a small, broad brush amount because they need to know their general, math, their general small sciences. Like you have general art, you don't have advanced art classes, you don't even have mid-level art classes. You need to know your colors, that kind of stuff, your primary, secondary colors, that kind of deal. So you need to know all those little general things, which I think really, if you're putting them in government schools, by the time they're in 5th grade, 4th grade, maybe even 3rd grade nowadays, they got it all done. Why are they still in school then? Unless they want to move forward and advance in certain subjects or subjects, why would they be there? Because it's not about education, it's about indoctrination. So why would you have your kids in school? So I'm saying pull them out. So I did that. I did this years ago, 7, 8 years ago. And one of the main reasons I felt it was necessary, and talking with my wife and stuff, was I went back and forth with my oldest son's math teacher, back and forth. And this was 4th grade, end of 4th grade, and then again in 5th grade. Because he was so far, math just came easy to him. It was just like second nature to him. And he was told to sit back, to stop. Couldn't move ahead, couldn't advance, that kind of stuff. He had to be where everyone else in the class was. So he was told just to stop. So because of that, we found out from our child back then that he was coming home with all these work things, these worksheets that he did during school. And the whole back of them had drawings on them, and in the front where all his problems were that he did, had drawings on them, that kind of stuff. And we're like, we thought he was in trouble. He said, why are you not focusing in school? Why are you doing this? Well, the teacher told me because I'm ahead. I want to move ahead, but I can't. That she said I can draw on my worksheets. So that's what he did during math class. Every day, for the most part, was he drew on his worksheets, front and back, anywhere he could. Because the teacher said he could because she would not allow him to move forward. So I questioned her and that kind of stuff, and we went back and forth, and she said, well, she needs everyone to be at the same level, and if he's moving ahead, he's going to get in trouble, so we keep him down at the same level where the majority of the students are. And I said, well, that's not how it was when I was in school. You were allowed to advance. We were allowed for extra credit. We were allowed to move ahead. And she said, well, no, because now it's just easier and it's better for all the children because they don't see people advancing and people leaving and that kind of stuff. If we just keep them all together, that'll be that way throughout all their years until they graduate. So no one is thinking someone's better, no one's thinking someone's lower, that kind of stuff. We just keep them all the same level. And I just was like, that. I think that was the thing that threw me over the edge. And eventually we were able to pull them out of school. So that's what we did. So we home educated, or I myself home educated. And now I just want to go over a few things on what I did, and maybe this will give some insight in how to do it. And if you think about school, government schools, what is it, 7 hours every day, Monday through Friday? All of that in a scope, at least what I've learned over the years, all of that full time, so 7 times 5, 35 hours, we'll say, rounded up to 40 hours of school that they had, they probably have about 2 hours of real school. That's about it. That's what they had of real substance. So think about that. I'm not exaggerating. Think about it. Seriously, think about that. That's a no exaggeration. If they're doing something physical education wise, that kind of stuff, that just adds time, but they can do that outside. They can do whatever outside. If they have siblings, you can set stuff up with them. Not a big deal. So just think about that. So, and a lot of that is that stuff, that junk stuff that they don't want to learn because they're not going to use it. What they do want to learn, or whether they don't want to learn it, but they're going to use it, is financial stuff, is stuff on a checkbook, is stuff about the house, is stuff about relationships, is that all this stuff that you learn nothing in school for it. Once you're out, boom, you're gone, whether you go to college or not. Now it's like I got to learn all this stuff that I wasn't taught over all these years of my life. I got to do a crash course and I got to figure this out myself, or I'm going to be in a lot of trouble, whether it's financially or it's other ways. I'm going to be in big trouble because I was not taught this at all, and now I need to learn, and I need to learn myself. And the problem with that, the schools nowadays, government schools especially, don't teach people how to learn. They don't teach people how to find answers. They don't teach people how to do it and how to dig and how to research. They don't teach people that. They just say, these are what you need to learn. Here's the test. Regurgitate what you were taught. Regurgitate what I told you. Regurgitate what you were supposed to read in the book. Basically, that's what it is. So, what I started doing, I got some books I want to go over with you and just show you quickly, because I got a bunch, just to try to show and do a little explanation of each. But I started to do PowerPoints. I started the children in PowerPoints. And I believe my youngest, when I started this, I used to have him do reports, I think when he was 8, when I was homeschooling, or home educating. And then by the age of 10, I moved to PowerPoints. I knew how to do PowerPoint, that kind of stuff, because that's what I had to learn my own, for the real world, my career. I had to learn that. But I told them, I want these reports, and I want you guys to do them, and I want you to research and that kind of stuff. And then I want you to do PowerPoints. So how I had them start was I had a report they had already done. They could choose from either one of the few reports they did and put it in a PowerPoint so they can learn PowerPoint. And they're like, well, how are we going to learn PowerPoint? Are you going to teach us? I said, nope, I'm not going to teach you. I said, you're going to have to figure that out. You're going to have to learn yourself. And I said, I do know there's tons of videos on YouTube and there's tons of pages on the internet that will help you and teach you, or not teach you, but show you how to learn these things that you have to learn from PowerPoint. So I threw it in, said this is it, and I want the PowerPoints in a month, because I already had all the research and they did all the whole book report, or the whole report, it was on a book or whatever it was, that was all done, because they already did that. Now they just had to put it in PowerPoint. So I gave them a month to learn it along with the other stuff that we were doing, the math and whatever else we were focusing on, the readings. So then a month goes by and they're supposed to present, and boom, my 10-year-old had a PowerPoint. It was tight for a 10-year-old. Everything was there. He needed a couple, maybe a couple things where I had to tell him, oh, maybe you should look here and do this and that. That's about it. The 10-year-old. And my other son, who was, a little older than that at the time, he was all together too. It was great. So we taught him, or I taught him, how to learn, how to find what he was looking for, how to research, and how to do it. That's what you're not taught in school. You're just showed and told these things, and you just have to regurgitate. That's what it is. Following orders. That's all you're doing. It's following orders. Period. Following orders. Now, think about that. What's been going on in the last 2 years? They expect you to guys to follow orders. They always have expected you to, but now that they threw major things in there, things that are outside of your comfort zones, things that are different to you, things that aren't the norm, they want you to follow orders. Well, of course you're going to follow orders, because that's what you've learned your whole life through government schools and even through college. Follow orders. That's what you do. That's how you get by in this life. Follow orders. So, anyways, they learned that. And that was great. So from there, I knew they had the capacity, the mental breadth to figure things out. So then I was like, all right, I'm not doing day by day stuff. I'm not doing week by week stuff. I started with week by week stuff, saying these are the words, these are the things you got to do, these are the math, or these are whatever the subjects I want to have for the week. And then by the end of the week, I'll check them over. You got to turn them in, or you got to tell me, or whatever. And here's the load for the week. Give them on Sundays, and they were due the following Sunday. Okay, that's what I did. And then as years went on, of homeschooling, if you want to call it that, or home education, I stopped doing the week by week thing, and I just started doing a month by month thing, because I wanted them to learn how to schedule. I wanted them to learn how to balance their fun stuff and their play stuff, and then their stuff that they had to work on, their real stuff that they had to do for learning, for education. And that it was a little bumpy in the beginning, but then it worked out. It was great. And I said, anytime you have any questions throughout this, come talk to me. We did read every day. Well, we started reading every day. Then we read 3 times a week, and we kept that religious throughout all of the home education. 3 times a week we would read. And I'll go over some books with you there. But I would just want to tell you about the PowerPoints. Some ideas for PowerPoints. Most of all these I gave them to go with. Some of them I would give them a choice. I'd say, I want you to think of a brand, some sort of brand, whether that's Crayola, whether that's McDonald's, or whatever the brand is, Nike. Think of a brand. I want you to learn about them, research them, and do a report on it. So then that's what they would do. And then I said, pick your favorite artist. And that's what they would do. Pick a favorite artist, and they researched and learned all this stuff about the artist, and then they did that. And then there was a time where I wanted them to do reports on a place, a country. So how we figured that out was I printed out a map, and I put it a ways away, and we have a blowgun. So I said, wherever you shoot your blowgun at, and whatever it hits, that's what you got to do your report on. So one of my sons hit Russia, so he did and I'll go over this, and my other son hit Belarus, which they're in the same sort of vicinity. So that's what I did. And then a majority of all the rest of them, I just gave them, this is what you got to do. And I give them parameters. So you got to figure out whether it's you're doing something financial, something monetary between the year 1900 to the year 2000, or between the year 1850 to the year 1920, whatever. That's what I would do. So I'll just go over some of the stuff that they have done, they did. Artificial intelligence, that was one of the reports. The gold standard from early 1900 to 1971, that was a report. PowerPoint. One of them done. Venezuela and Argentina hyperinflation events. My youngest had done that. USSR and Russia, that was chosen by the blowgun. Then another one did World War II, Hitler and the Nazi SS. We had Jonestown. Then we had one of the artists was H.R. Giger, and we had how AI, artificial intelligence, will change the world. We did a more in-depth report on that. PowerPoint. One of my sons did the combustion engine versus electric vehicles. You know, just the comparisons there. History of the internet from the very beginnings of it to now. Did a history of the Nintendo company, which I didn't know half the stuff with Nintendo. It was really, really interesting because they didn't start out as an electronic company at all. Quantum computing, we had nuclear power, fusion, and fission. The history of Belarus, like I had said. Then we have Anonymous, that hacker entity. We had the Berlin Wall. One of my son's favorite artists, Salvador Dali, he did a report on that, a PowerPoint on that. And then one of my sons did Mao Zedong, whatever. Then one of my sons got interested in vaccines, so he wanted to do a 3-part thing of vaccines. So he did the aluminum formaldehyde and polysorbate 80 in vaccines. He did PowerPoints on those. Wizards of the Coast, which is magic cards and that kind of stuff. I think they've got Dungeons and Dragons now. That was another one. I think it was for the brand thing. Yes, I'm pretty sure the brand thing that I told them to pick. Wizards of the Coast was one of my sons. My other son had chosen the Nintendo. And that's how we got the history of Nintendo. So there's just some ideas. And it's really, really spectacular. Because I learned some stuff from this. I didn't know. I assigned things to them, monetarily, the gold standard kind of stuff. And that, which I pretty much knew most of it, and we were reading that kind of stuff. But the stuff on the brands and some of the artists and stuff, it was really interesting. And they did all this stuff. And I told them, I said, you research. I said, you can go to certain areas to research. I said, but do not limit your researching. You have the entire internet. You have family and friends. Do not ever limit your resources where you're researching, ever. Your sources, do not limit your sources. And they did great. So I'm talking about that, and I got another little story here about schooling. My son was looking for something because he's, no longer with the schools, and we're in a different state, and I home educate, like I said. He wanted to, be involved with one of the schools in a sport sort of thing. So I got talking to the superintendent, and we're talking a little bit and that kind of stuff, and she had asked me, is he good with school? Is he good if you're schooling him at home, that kind of stuff? I said, yes. This has been great. And she said, well, we have great schools here, and we're really proud of them and that kind of stuff, and we would be more than happy to welcome your son, to our school, to the public school here, she said, the government school, and he would fit right in. It sounds like he'd be welcome with, warm arms, that kind of stuff. And I said, well, then I told her the story about the math, like I told you, with my one child. And I said, and he was not allowed to advance one bit. And he was held back, not held back per se, just not allowed to advance. I said, so that just gave me a bad, idea of it and a bad taste in my mouth, for lack of a better term, or lack of a better word. And it was silence. There was no more conversing about that point at all. She just dropped it, dead silent. But anyways, I think she knew, that's just, whether they're doing it on purpose or they're limited because they can only do so much or they need to hold people back and they can't let people advance, that's not for me to think or for me to say. All I know is it was happening and it's still happening. So that's why I'm suggesting pulling your children out of these schools, home educate now. You can do it when you're off work, like I told you. An hour or two an evening, more than enough, way more than enough to educate your children. In the beginning, it's going to be rough, but believe me, you don't want strangers raising your children and teaching them different morals and different things and different views on life and aspects that you don't believe. The stuff you don't hold true, the stuff you hold true, they might not believe that because they're being taught by someone else and then someone else again that hold totally different values, totally different truths if you want to call it that, morals. And your children will learn that and it'll be part of them. And it's going to be tough to break. I think of that. I think of all these children, all these parents with these children, like, oh, they're teenagers, it's just so rough when they're teenagers, because they don't trust you, they don't believe you, they whatever the stories are. They're just teenagers. Well, I've been homeschooling or home educating my children for years, and we try to have family game nights and that kind of stuff as much as we can. And it seems like I don't have it. I mean, yeah, you still have your teenage attitudes, but we don't have it. Nothing like my family members do, with their children. It's nothing like that. And I feel that's a big, strong reason for that. It's because of how they were raised, and I say raised because of how they were educated and where they were educated and who they were educated from, how they were allowed to be educated. So I'm just going over the stuff. I'm blabbering, but I'm going to show some of these books quick. If you have younger kids, this book here, Who Moved My Cheese? This is a great book. It's a quick book. It's an entertaining book. And your kids would love it. And I think it gets your kids thinking outside the box about things. That was a great book. For other younger children, or even older children, this is a great book. How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. This is an amazing book. It really helps any financial questions and gets people thinking, children thinking about that kind of stuff. And then I have, everyone needs to read this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. This changed my thought on things. Money, finances, everything, assets, that kind of stuff. This is a must. And throw in there another one by Robert Kiyosaki is Fake. There's a little bit of repetition from Rich Dad Poor Dad, not much at all, but this is another great book to have and read. And then here's another one, Economics in One Lesson. This one here has some harder words to read. It's a little older English kind of stuff. Not old English, but it's a little older language than we have had for the last 30 years or whatever. But all these books, like I said, we read at least 3 times a week. All these books, my children read. We sat down for an hour or two I say every day, but every 3 days a week, sat there. Usually it was closer to 2 hours. And they read. And these are the books they read. I didn't read. We didn't start them out reading simple, cartoony books, that kind of stuff that didn't mean anything. My youngest, dyslexic, he had that issue with him. And he was so bad in his spelling, in his language, and his writing, and his reading was very, very low. I just was like, he's going to read. And we're not going to baby him. We're not going to give him simple stuff. He read this to us. And it worked. Figured it out. And now he is the strongest. I mean, with his yearly test that I have him take, he's reading post-high school level. And he's still in high school. I mean, he's reading mid-college level stuff. And he's still in high school. This is another great book. It gets people thinking. Just different ways to think about stuff. It's really eye-opening, and I highly recommend it, Freakonomics. Then we got this one here, The Bitcoin Standard. This, I mean, whether you know anything about Bitcoin or believe in it or whatever, most of this book, I think all the chapters except for the last one, is all monetary based. It's all about how to monetary stuff start with shells and with exchanges. Nothing to do with cryptocurrency, nothing to do with Bitcoin until the very, very end of the book. This is the essential, in my opinion, reading. I think every child should read this. Don't have to read the end if they don't care about Bitcoin, which I think everyone should know about Bitcoin, but this is it's just a hidden gem. And then I got this one here, The Ponzi Factor. This one just opened my eyes to how Wall Street is, how stocks are, that kind of stuff. Really, really opened my thinking. I mean, because I just knew what people told me, it was all out there. This opened a different way to think about things. I can't recommend this enough either. And then I got two more. This one here, this is about Zimbabwe, that hyperinflation that happened there, and with that $100 trillion bill back in 2008, 2009, I think it was done. The whole thing crashed by that time. But if you look at this is right where we are as a country, right where our dollar is. I think this is going to be a good thing to read, to get people to think about where we are and where things may end up. And I get a strong feeling they're going to end up there. And last but not least, so if you have someone who is interested in brands, or they're just the way things work, and they want to go a little more deep into it, I think this one here, this was a great read too. They're quick things, 100 greatest brand failures, and there's like a little thing about New Coke. Some are a few pages long, some are just like a few paragraphs long for each of them. And it's a real easy, simple read, and you can read one little thing, a few paragraphs about one brand, boom, and be done for the reading if you're going to read a little bit a day. The next time might be a few pages about the New Coke or Harley, that kind of stuff, different things. This was a great thing too. And my children do, because this is what I want to read before they did their PowerPoint on the brands. So I had them start there with some brand failures. We didn't read it all. I've read it all many times, but I had them pick out different ones they wanted to read about to get a whole essence and a whole scope of what a brand meant, because they were younger, what a brand was. And then that's when I had them choose what they wanted to look into, what they wanted to do a report on and a PowerPoint on. Pretty much that's what I got. This might have been a long video, and I apologize for that, but if I can answer any questions, just send me a message, reply on this thing or whatever. I will try to help anyone the best I can on homeschooling or home education, I like to say. And any other, plenty of books, a plethora of books we've read. This is just a very small sampling of what we've read over the years with the boys, with the kids, and the children. But I can't say enough. I'd pull them out right now, because all that's happening is they're being damaged in my opinion only. Physically, by these face diapers, these muzzles, and by not being able to interact, that kind of stuff, and being scared. All this hype and all these scare tactics that they have, all this stuff I think is just harm, nothing but harm. And then they're indoctrinated with all this stuff, a lot of stuff that doesn't matter. Nothing about there's real world stuff they're really, really learning. They have to learn how to research, how to figure out, how to find answers, how to problem solve. Anyways, as always, if you like this, like, share, subscribe, that kind of stuff. Stay vigilant. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your health, and protect your love.